Before we start, if you could have your advice to all the four speakers.
Thank you very much, Shubayu. I hope I am audible.
Loud and clear, sir.
I'm sitting in Delhi right now, and there's this air conditioner that's sounding like a road roller next to me. So a very good evening to all the competitors. There's Sneh, Ruchika, Gauri, and Mohit. Welcome. You know, I'm learning a lot of things in this debate. One of the things is that there are so many wonderful schools in this country. The Unison School is very close to where I live in Dehradun, and so I feel I'm on home turf over there. I've done a lot of workshops with that school. Wonderful school, beautiful facilities. But when I Googled the Sanjay Godawat International School, Kolhapur, I was equally surprised to see what a fantastic school. And, you know, you match the Unison School, you know, facility, you know, for what, you know, each one is so fantastically endowed with facilities. So both of you are so fortunate to be studying in such a wonderful, institution. And also fortunate to be representing your schools as a debater. I am extremely fortunate to be invited on by Notebook to adjudicate these debates. It's not been easy. It's going to be tough for all of us because the debates have been very, very close. So may I wish both the teams all the very best. May the best team win. Please try and engage with the audience and not read your pieces. And try and analyze the topic the best you can. With that, over to you, Shubayu.
Thank you so much, sir. We are completely privileged to have you with us. It's also our privilege to be powered by Stay Free. Stay Free, as all of you know, is a women's hygiene brand from Johnson & Johnson. They do a phenomenal amount of great work for women's hygiene, particularly young women who are just entering their puberty. Here is a short message that they wanted to share with all of us during this lockdown.
मेरे पीरियड शुरू हो गए।
पहली बार हो रहे हैं मुझे, तो काफ़ी अजीब लग रहा है।
पीरियड्स में मुझे आसान काम भी मुश्किल लगता है, बहुत दर्द होता है।
मैं किसी के पास बैठ भी नहीं सकती और जब मैं उठती हूँ बार बार निशान चेक करती हूँ।
घर में एक ही वॉशरूम है तो पैड चेंज करने में मुझे शर्म आती है।
मुझे पैड को कचरे में छुपाना पड़ता है हर बार।
She may not understand what she's going through. She just needs to know you do. Over 2 million girls will get their first period in lockdown. Your daughter or sister could be one of them. Talk to her. Tell her.
It's normal. It's just a period.
Well, after that wonderful, heartwarming message from Stay Free, let's take a look at today's topic. The topic that the two schools are debating today, this house believes that gender equality in corporates should be made mandatory. I repeat, this house believes gender equality in corporates should be made mandatory. Here are the two teams from the Unison World School, Dehradun. We have Ms. Varsha Sharma, who's the adjudicator. We have Sneha speaking for the motion, while Ruchika would be speaking against the motion. From the Sanjay Godawat International School, Kolhapur, we have Mr. Satish Gandhi as the adjudicator. Gauri would be speaking for the motion, while Mohit speaks against the motion. Would be great to have all of you on camera so that we can see all of you. This here is the order in which we will have the four speakers. Sneha will speak first for the motion, followed by Mohit speaking against the motion. Then would be Gauri speaking for the motion, and finally Ruchika against the motion. Each of you have 5 minutes for your initial arguments, and then we'll come back for 2 minutes for the rebuttal of your opposition bench. Sneha, if you're ready, I will stop my share. Before we start with your debate, we would love to know you a little bit better.
Hello, I'm Sneha, and I'm really excited to be participating in this event, and I hope I'm able to do the best. And thank you.
Well, Sneha, not to worry, I'm sure you'll do your best. All our best wishes are with you. If you're ready for your debate, we will start your time now.
Women are the largest untapped reservoirs of talent in the world. A very good evening to the esteemed adjudicators, my worthy opponents, and everyone present here today. This House believes that gender equality in corporates should be made mandatory, and I am here today to convince you of the same. Today's debate highlights the need to create such an atmosphere in corporates by taking appropriate measures that no gender is discriminated or treated unjustly, and there's equality in the different specters of corporate life. I have divided my argument into 6 constructs. My first construct portrays that more women come forward and realize the potential that they already possess when they have opportunities without facing stigmatical judgments from the society. Reports from the International Labour Organization for the year 2018 show that there's a 23% gender wage gap globally in all of the corporates. And ladies and gentlemen, this very report shows that when targeted action was taken to reduce the gender inequality present in the corporates, the gender wage gap reduced from 21.8% to 19.2% and continued reducing. So don't you think that more such opportunities should be created so that gender inequality is removed from the society and from the corporate life? Maya Angelou said, when a woman stands up for herself without knowing it, possibly without claiming it, she stands up for every other woman. My next construct shows how mandatory gender equality in corporates results in its development as well as the country's growth. Mandatory gender equality in corporates creates a balanced staff force for every job, resulting in holistic development. Sweden took action to reduce its gender inequality in corporates, which resulted in a boost of almost $6 billion in its economy. And this shows that making gender equality mandatory in corporates actually does achieve results. I'll now present my third construct. Ladies and gentlemen, today in the 21st century, I'm sure that everyone, the audience, the esteemed judges, and even my worthy opponents are open-minded enough to understand that no gender is superior to the other, but society is built on stereotypes, prejudices, and social stigmas due to years of institutionalized patriarchy still ingrained in our mind. Due to this, people subconsciously adhere to these social stigmas while hiring people in corporates, which results in not treating everyone fairly, and it's just unfair. Ladies and gentlemen, if you randomly go to some households and ask them how they balance their work and home life, you'll see that in 9 out of 10 cases, only women are expected to take care of both home and work life, while men are not. So, do my worthy opponents mean to say that no gender faces prejudices while being hired in corporates? Because that, my friends, is an unrealistic ideology. My next construct illustrates how other genders face discrimination in corporates because of who they are and not what skills they possess. There have been hundreds of instances in the United States where a person who was perfectly capable of doing a job was fired when it came to light that they were a part of the LGBTQ community. Wasn't this unfair? And when an act to stop such actions just based on gender was made mandatory in the United States, this unfair firing of people reduced noticeably. And don't you think that this was necessary to bring at least a certain level of gender equality in the corporate sector? Now comes my fifth construct. Gender equality isn't a female right, it is a human right. And each and every gender benefits from it. Esteemed listeners, gender equality does not only help the subjugated genders, instead, it even helps men, because the topic, mandatory gender equality, itself means that no gender assumes a superior position in the corporate sector and that no gender is given preference over others. For my last construct, I would like everyone to listen, understand, and register that mandatory gender equality does not mean segregating jobs according to gender. Instead, it merely means ensuring that people who have the ability to rise aren't discriminated, even subconsciously, just because of their gender. Thus, I would like to rest my case by saying mandatory gender equality does not mean being partial to any gender. On the contrary, it means ensuring that by taking measures that no partiality takes place in corporates. Thank you. I rest my case.
Well done, Sneha. Some very well balanced arguments there. Let's see how the judges score you. Judges, do you have access to your scoring sheets? I can see Bharat sir is scoring on his sheet. Thank you so much, sir. I can see that Varsha ma'am is scoring on her sheet as well. Thank you so much, ma'am. And I can see Mr. Gandhi also scoring on his sheet. Great. Judges, please remember that row number 9 will be filled up later after the rebuttal. For now, fill up all the other rows except row number 9, which is for the use of rebuttal. Sneha, you'll have to give us just a couple of seconds before we can get everybody's scores in and show you your final tally. Bharat sir, may I take that as your final score?
Yes, please, Shibayu.
Thank you so much, sir. Varsha ma'am, may I take that as your final score, please?
Yes, sir.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Mr. Gandhi, may I take that as your final score as well? I reckon I can. So Sneha, if you're looking at the screen, these are your scores after your initial 5 minutes of arguments on your screen now. Well done. Mohit, you are up next.
Am I audible, sir?
Yes, Mohit, we can hear you. Mohit, if you are ready, we will first love to know a little bit more about you.
Yeah. Good evening, everyone. I am Mohit Shah from Sanjay Godawat International School, Maharashtra, India. And my hobbies are, I like watching political debates, I like reading, and I love playing badminton. Thank you.
Great, Mohit. Love that suit. If you're ready with your arguments, we will start your time now.
A change cannot always happen by law, but change is the law of life. If there is going to be a change, it will have to work its way from the people themselves. That's how an eternal change happens. Namaste and greetings to all the organizers of the debate, respected adjudicators, and my worthy opponents. I'm speaking against the motion, gender equality in corporates should be mandatory. From what I believe, if someone calls a woman bossy or shrill in front of me, I would ask him, would he react in the same way if a man did the same thing? Gender equality cannot be achieved by giving jobs in corporate. It can be achieved by realizing the true essence of it. Gender equality is something wherein corporates cannot realize the true essence of what they do. Groups don't change their dynamics unless and until they decide to change their dynamics. If you impose a new law, the corporate will simply find a way around the new rules. Gender equality in corporates would violate state and federal constitutions and the civil rights law, as it requires that a person is disqualified and another person is promoted simply on the basis of gender. It doesn't encourage meritocratic selection or even increase the pipeline of qualified candidates, but merely propagates a gender-oriented approach that is guaranteed to provoke backlash. The functioning as well as the effectiveness of companies will be severely compromised as they are working for profit motive. Isn't this ambiguous? In most parts of the world, when a girl is born, her wings are clipped. She's not able to fly. In India, the literacy rate is 65.5% in females and 82.1% in males. As of 2017, 32% of girls were not even enrolled in schools, and 47% of these girls married at 18 years of age. If adequate facilities are not available to girls, why blame the corporates and make gender equality mandatory for them? Hitting the nail right on its head, If resources are spent on girls' education, it will boost the country's GDP by 2.4%. And as corporates will recruit people on merit basis, better employees make better companies, which will create a twofold effect on the economy of a country. And when we talk about all these things, we must always remember that since the 19th century, people like B.R. Ambedkar, Jyotirao Phule, Emma Watson, Oprah Winfrey have always been supporting women. But this perception of unfairness, wherein talent is given no importance, may cause men to become less supportive towards policies seeking betterment of women. It will also create a potential stigma, as the women employed by the imposition of law will be seen as less qualified and only in the company because of gender equality, which will definitely undermine their effectiveness. Thus, the goal should not just be more female employees, but it should be more female employees who are capable and credible. If gender equality is to be made mandatory in corporates, we must also note that 60% of HR job positions in companies and customer service sector are held by women. They also form 75% of the workforce in healthcare, educational, and social sector. And the question is, can you remove women from these sectors to achieve gender equality? I would like to challenge my opponents that that the day, for example, the day when you would be fired from your organization for such a reason, that day we'll sit on the same platform, debate on the same topic, and then we'll talk about gender equality. Making gender equality mandatory in corporates only targets a symptom and not the right disease. If some companies do not want to force out or remove some of the employees, how will they afford extra employees? Thus, making gender equality mandatory in corporates only provides the appearance of a quick change, but it restricts the process of real change. And this paradigm shift is highly unacceptable by law. Thus, I always want you to remember that a thought is a thought. It has no gender. Remember it. Thank you.
Well done, Mohit. Let's see how the judges are scoring you. Judges, remember, Mohit's scores go in the 4th column. And I can see some of the scores coming in. While the judges are giving their scores, a couple of requests to all the audience members. Every time you raise your hand, the speakers can see a small alert at the bottom of their screen saying so-and-so raised a hand. And it's the same area where they'll see when they are, getting close to their time limit. So we are really happy to have all of you here, but if you could refrain from raising your hands now, it would mean that the speakers can speak uninterrupted. That would really help a lot. Thank you so much. You'll all get your chance to vote. The voting happens after the speakers are done speaking, and then you can choose your favorite speaker. So just hold on until then, watch the debates. This is a topic that is perhaps way over the age that all the 4 speakers belong to. And the kind of efforts they would have put in to come up with these mature arguments, appreciate that and watch the debate. Bharat sir, I have your scores. May I take them as final?
Yes, please, Shubhai.
Thank you, sir. Varsha ma'am, may I take your scores as final as well?
Sure, sir. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Mr. Gandhi, can I take your score as final? I guess I can. Mohit, if you're looking at the screen, these are your scores at the end of your first 5 minutes of arguments on your screen now. Well done. Gauri, you're up next. As with the speakers before you, we would love to know you a little bit better before we start your debate.
Namaste everyone. I'm Gauri Sanket Bagli of the Sanjay Ghodawat International School, Maharashtra, India. And I am a classical singer I'm an under-trainee classical singer. I love debating. I love reading books. I'm an avid reader. Apart from that, I write poems.
Wonderful, Gauri. If you're ready with your arguments, we will start your time for 5 minutes now.
Namaste all, respected organizers, adjudicators, and my worthy opponents. I am Gauri Bagli of the Sanjay Ghodawat International School and the proponent of the motion, gender equality in corporates should be made mandatory. Sharon Perry very beautifully writes, females and males are one in the world, although that is not the belief that has yet been furled. We have told that one gender is better than the other. It seems just like one stereotype, one after the another. Gender equality is one of those most spoken topics of the world. Some consider it a myth, while others consider it as a need. But before we speak about gender equality, we must understand gender equality. To dictionaries, gender equality is defined as an access to rights or opportunities unaffected by your gender. But to emotions of people, it is a dream that every person dreams to have come true. And probably even the 16th century French had realized this. Therefore, they made it a priority in the Declaration of Rights. Now let me analyze corporates. Corporates are large companies which are recognized by the law to work as single entities. They are involved in business. Naturally, they tend to make profits. With this analysis of the title, my understanding of the topic is that all genders must be in an equal ratio in large companies mandatorily. And this house firmly backs this issue. Now, as I say this, my opponent quoted that it would be discrimination. I question to that person, if we try to bring the suppressed up by giving them some special laws, will you still call it discrimination? Would you still call it discrimination if a person would sleep hungry, if a widow would find herself hungry, not even one bit of grain to feed her child, and would you tell her that you cannot earn your bread because you're not capable? No, let me reframe it, because I do not find you capable. McKinsey Global Institute has already estimated that if gender equality is made mandatory in corporates, then the global economy can rise by $28 trillion, which is a pretty high value. Women make half the working age population, and if their potential is fully utilized, then the whole company can see up to 21% of rise in their own profits. Would you still say that they are incompetent? Let me elaborate with an example on how gender equality, if promoted in companies, would increase their consumer base. Hypothetically, a soap company is run all by men with a minority of ladies working in it. Therefore, the company sells only soaps that a man may require. Their consumer base is restricted towards men. But if gender equality law is introduced by the government into that company, then that company will have now a wider angle of seeing their own problems. When women have an equal say, not only women, but all genders have an equal say in that company's laws, then they would see a surge in their reputation. And in fact, a report by Accenture says that 53% of the people would be disappointed if they find the company's social stance on a particular issue wrong and will not buy their products. Now, if the company's reputation is increased in the mind of the people, it is obvious that seeing the way the company will have been making decisions, they will try and make sure to buy those companies' products. These were the issues on how companies can be profited from this gender equality. Now let me tell you about some intangible effects that are hidden beneath. If gender equality is introduced into the company, then education will be promoted in the society. We can eradicate poverty in the society. And most importantly, a goal that the whole world has set for themselves, the SDGs, the Sustainable Development Goals, which state about sanitation, which state about poverty, that state about education, will all come to a higher range of fulfillment. Not only this, but you may now question to me that what about those men who will lose their jobs because of this? I tell you, there are sectors like teaching and medicine where 75% of the people working are women. Isn't this a gender gap? Now, when corporate businesses have gender equality rules amongst them, the men who have not been given the jobs will now be open to go to sectors such as education, teaching, medicine. And this will create a virtuous cycle of growth into the whole world. Last but not the least, I just have one sentence to sum the whole thing that I want to prove. Corporates must incorporate gender equality mandatorily. Not because it is just the right thing to do, but because it is also the best thing to do. With this, I rest my case.
Well done, Gauri. Some very, very forceful arguments there. However, judges, please note, Gauri went over time by about 1 minute and 20 seconds. So please mark her accordingly. Let's see how the judges score Gauri. I can see the scores coming in. I would again request the audience members, if you could please keep your hands down during the course of the debate. This is the time when between the two speakers are speaking. If you want to cheer for your favorite speaker, go for it. Raise your hands all you want, right? But when they're speaking, they need to concentrate, they need to focus. So help them do that by not raising hands. Bharat sir, I have your scores. May I take them as final?
Yes, Shubhaju, please.
Thank you so much, sir. Varsha ma'am, I have your score as well. May I take that as final?
No, please. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Mr. Gandhi, may I take your score as final? All right. So, Gauri, if you can see your screen, these are your scores at the end of your initial 5 minutes of arguments. Very well done. Ruchika, you are up next. 3 speakers before you. Let's see how well you bring new points to the table and argue your stand. Yeah.
Shall I start? Am I visible and audible?
Yes, I can see you. I can hear you loud and clear. We would love to know you a little better though.
Okay, so good evening, everyone. My name is Ruchika Agarwal. And firstly, I would like to thank Notebook for providing us an international platform for debating. And coming to me, I am from Unison World School, studying currently in grade 11. My hobbies include reading, writing, playing table tennis, guitar, and I also take keen interest in debating. Thank you.
Wonderful, Ruchika. If you are ready with your arguments, we will start your time now.
To achieve gender equality, we must first tackle our unconscious bias. Enforcing or making things mandatory is not necessary. Oh, very pleasant evening to the esteemed judge, respected adjudicators and moderator, my worthy opponents, and the intelligent audience. The topic for today's debate is, this House believes that gender equality in corporates should be made mandatory, and I firmly stand against it. Ladies and gentlemen, before I proceed with my arguments, I would like to mark and explain the keywords in the topic: gender equality, corporates, and mandatory. Now, gender equality is the state of having the same rights, status, and opportunities regardless of any gender. Needless to say, the word corporate refers to a large company or group, and mandatory means compulsory or required by law. Since it is such a vast topic to discuss, I have divided my debate into various broad constructs. My first construct, ladies and gentlemen, is that by making gender equality in corporates mandatory, employers would be forced to take in women, and there is a possibility for them to not be as qualified for the job. Now, here is a real life story, and I quote this personal example because it is symbolic of millions of other incidents going around the globe. My brother applied for a post in the company. He managed to fulfill all the criteria and conditions. However, he did not get the job because this company had a policy which allowed women with lesser qualifications, I repeat, lesser qualifications for the same post. And thus, a woman who had applied for the job acquired it, which my brother deserved better because of his high qualifications. On being rejected, he said something which is etched in my mind, and I would like to quote, "I wish I were a female." I didn't know then, and I still don't know whether to laugh or feel sad about my brother's utterance. So, ladies and gentlemen, I believe that yes, gender equality should be there, but a mandatory status to it is not required. My next construct is that putting a mandate on gender equality would present women as weak and undermine women empowerment. The catch is, even if a woman is equally educated and skilled, a mandatory gender equality might seem like they have been given an unfair chance, which is not true. Thirdly, ladies and gentlemen, it would remove the prospects of equal competition, because making gender equality mandatory would make separate blocks of recruitment for men and women. Thus, I believe that corporates should not make gender equality mandatory. Rather, take individuals keeping in mind their qualifications, experience, competence, and caliber, and not on the basis of their gender. Yet another construct, ladies and gentlemen, making gender equality mandatory will not remove the underlying discrimination in people's temperaments. It will only aggravate them and fuel the hostility of one gender towards the other. This will surely be perceived as negative by most people and lead to an unhealthy ambience at the workplace. Picture this real life incident where a mandatory gender equality resulted in inequality. In 2015, my English teacher's daughter completed her LLM from NLU Delhi. She had secured the second position. Notwithstanding my English teacher's daughter's achievement, she was robbed of the second position just because the institution had provision for only 2 prizes, one of which was to be given to a boy and the other to a girl. So the first ranker, who was a girl, received her prize very well. But the second prize went to the boy who had actually secured the third rank. What inequality in the name of gender equality. So, ladies and gentlemen, I reiterate that gender equality should be there, even in corporates, but it should not be made mandatory. With complete faith and confidence in my just arguments, I rest my case with a firm belief that I have been successful in swaying the minds of this august house. And if not so, at least got them thinking my way. That's my time. Over to the moderator.
Well done, Ruchika. Some powerful arguments there. Coming in after 3 speakers and doing that job was very, very commendable. Let's see how the judges are scoring you. Judges, you have access to the scoring sheets. Let's see those scores coming in. Bharat sir, I can see your scores. Thank you. I can see all the judges putting their scores in. So Ruchika, in just a couple of minutes, I will be sharing your score with you. Bharat sir, may I take that as your final score?
Yes, Vayu, please.
Thank you so much, sir. Varsha ma'am, may I take that as your final score, please?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Mr. Gandhi, I'm taking that as your final score, if you will. Thank you. So, Ruchika, after your initial 5 minutes of arguments, these are your scores up on the screen now. Well done. But these arguments, ladies and gentlemen, were prepared. Each participant had 48 hours of preparation time with the topic given to them. But this is when their listening skills are put to test, because they will have to rebut the points made by the opposition bench. Remember, you're not rebutting the opposition school, but the opposition bench, which means Sneha and Gauri, you're now part of the same team who are rebutting points put forth by Mohit and Ruchika, and vice versa. Right? We will go in the same order. Sneha, will start with you. If you're ready, we will start your time for the rebuttal. You should unmute yourself first so that you don't lose time. Yeah. If you're ready, we will start your time for the rebuttal now.
Doing nothing and believing that everything would change overnight does not achieve results. A very good evening to one and all present here again. After listening to the valid points of my opponents, I would like to present my views on their points. My worthy opponent started by saying that making something mandatory can never help. But I would like to ask you, if you think that making something mandatory can never help, do you really think that twiddling your thumbs and doing nothing is better? No, my friends, that is even worse. And at least doing something is better than doing nothing. In one construct, my opponent mentioned that if a woman has a talent, why doesn't the confidence follow? Let me tell you, my friends, a woman faces prejudices from the society, social stigmas, and so many stereotypes in her everyday life. And due to this, that is the reason her confidence does not follow. And that is why we need to create provisions that they can realize their full potential and do all they can. My worthy opponent gave an example where a male did not get a job and a female was given the job, and he thought that it was because the female was given partiality. Partiality was done. But my friends, society has conditioned us in such a way that we think women only get jobs because of partiality, not because they are capable. And that is the stereotype of the society talking, which has ingrained in our minds to such a deep level that we actually seem to believe it. But that, my friends, is not true. My worthy opponent mentioned that they think talent is not given importance when mandatory gender equality is there. But gender equality isn't letting incapable people do jobs. It is merely letting the capable people it is merely giving such opportunities to capable people that they realize their full potential. So my opponent seems to believe that by making gender equality mandatory, incapable females would be employed. But I would like to repeat that gender equality is only creating such opportunities where females overcome the social stigmas of the society and realize the potential, and they are perfectly capable. So I would like to rest my argument by saying gender equality isn't a female right, it is a human right. Thank you.
Well, Sneha, well done, but a little over time. Let's see how the judges score you for that. Judges, if you could please put in Sneha's scores, the first column on your left. I have received all three scores. Thank you. To all the speakers, we will show you the scores, the final scores that you've gotten with the rebuttal 5 points after all 4 of you are done with your rebuttals. So you'll have to hold on until then. Mohit, you're up next. Mohit, you're ready with your rebuttal. We will start your time for 2 minutes now.
Well, once again, good evening to everyone. And first of all, I would like to highlight some of the points. I think my worthy opponent lacks the courage to answer my questions because she has left many of my questions unanswered. I think she has already accepted that making gender equality mandatory in corporates is a violation of the civil rights law. Point number 1. Second thing, she didn't revert back when I asked her about the creation of a potential stigma in the corporates. She also did not answer the question that how can a company afford extra employees? And just briefing it up, I think she's reluctant to accepting challenges. Well, moving ahead, she has mentioned some of the points. She said more opportunities need to be created. Yes, I thank you for proving my point right. I do believe that more opportunities need to be created. First, the females need to be educated to give them jobs. And I think you have better knowledge of the point that it is not the responsibility of the corporates to educate the females. Second thing, you also mentioned that gender equality will benefit everyone. But let me tell you, it will not benefit anybody, because even if you graduate from a top college or me graduating from a top college, since we are bounded by this gender equality, we are not certain about getting any kind of jobs. You said that the society has affected women. So the society has affected women. So why should the corporates suffer? The society affects women, should the corporates suffer? Are you linking up everything, and what do you want to imply out of that? And I was wondered by the fact, like, what kind of happiness do you get by disregarding your own IQ? I firmly believe that females will earn their post, and they are capable of that. They can do it, they will do it, and they should do it. Being proud of speaking against the motion, gender equality in corporates should be made mandatory. I rest my case. Thank you so much.
Well done, Mohit. Let's see how the judges are scoring you. Barit sir, I have your score. Thank you. Varsha ma'am, I have your score as well. Thank you. Mr. Gandhi, I have your score as well. Great. Moving on to Gauri. Gauri, I would ask you to unmute. Yes. If you're ready, Gauri, we will start your time for 2 minutes now.
Namaskar again to all of you. As I noted down the points of my worthy opponents, I came to listen that my worthy opponents have a thought that is limited to a short period of time. Looking at what judgments they kept in front of me, I completely felt that they have lost a track of the long-term basis and are looking towards the short term. And to highlight a very important fact, that gender equality and women empowerment are two different terms. They may be interlinked, but they are not the same to link each and every time that women are that, women are this. We know we are capable and we will do it. But this patriarchy system, as my other fellow teammate already mentioned, that they were losing their positions just because the patriarchy system has labeled them to be weak. And we want a mandatory law so that this label of being weak upon our heads goes off from that stigma. The second thing that I noted down was about, they said that women will be given jobs if they find them capable. Well, let me keep it into the, let me tell people that the unemployment rates of women in India are double that of men, and therefore women, though qualified, much more qualified than men, they are considered not to be given jobs just because the men feel they are not capable. This shows that women are equally qualified. Let me just end by saying, just by thinking things do not happen, actions speak better than words. Thank you.
Well done, Gauri. Let's see how the judges scored that rebuttal. Judges, you have access to the scoring sheet, and I can see the scores coming in. And I have all three scores. Great. Ruchika, it's your turn. If you're ready with your rebuttal, we will start your time for 2 minutes now.
Good evening to one and all once again. I listened intently to all the valid points given by my worthy opponents. But I'm still not convinced, and I still believe that gender equality in corporates should not be made mandatory. My worthy opponents mentioned in their construct that a mandatory gender equality would make more women come forward. But doesn't that create a bias for a particular gender? And especially in a corporate, we need to provide a framework for each deserving person, to grow and succeed, not depending on their gender. Now, my worthy opponents also said that the society has created stereotypes and stigmas, and making gender equality mandatory in corporates helps to fight them. Which is not true, my friend, because people for that need to change their orthodox thinking. They need to tackle their unconscious bias. Making things mandatory cannot help in that case. Another construct mentioned that it would lead to the development and growth of corporates. But I would like to enlighten them that there are inherent limitations of a respective gender vis-a-vis the job requirement. Not in all the cases is it possible that it would lead to the upliftment of a corporate sector. There are certain jobs that demand people of a particular gender. How can gender equality be made mandatory in that case? My worthy opponents also believe that making gender equality mandatory in corporates would not mean unjust treatment. But I believe that it will lead to unjust treatment, as gender can never be a criteria to judge people's abilities. When we are set to remove an ill practice from the society, that is gender inequality, making it mandatory can never help. I repeat, we need to change the mindset of people and the environment at a workplace. So I hope that with all of my structured arguments and relevant illustrations, I have been able to convince not only my audience, but also my opponents to think my way. Thank you. Over to the moderator.
Well done, Ruchika. Very mindful of the time this time. Let's see how the judges are scoring you. I have all three judges' scores, and this is where I should ideally show you your scores. But instead, I'll keep you in a little bit of suspense. While I tell you a few messages that we have from Notebook and from Save the Children, I would like to remind the audience that after this, you get to have an audience poll where you choose your favorite speaker. So just hang on until then. We at Notebook are an EdTech brand. We create small, crisp videos about 6 to 10 minutes in length for every topic from every subject in your curriculum. What this means is when teachers are taking their classes, whether online or offline, you get to play this short video for 6 minutes before you start your class. And then the class can have a much deeper discussion because every student then visualizes the topic similarly. Maybe 6 months later, when you as students are writing your exams and you would have forgotten some of the bits that were taught in class, these videos serve as a memory aid. They will not only help you revise the topic, but also remind you of what the teacher would have said after this video was shown in class. What I will do now is show you a small clip of one of the Notebook videos so that you know exactly what I'm talking about.
Hello students, welcome to Notebook. Have you heard the name Tansen before? Did you know he is considered one of the greatest musicians produced by our country? He was also considered one of the 9 jewels of King Akbar's court. In Behat near Gwalior lived Mukandan Mishra and his wife. Their only child, Tansen, was a very naughty boy. He would run and play in the forest. Soon, he learned how to imitate the calls of birds and animals. One day, the famous singer Swami Haridas was passing through the forest with his disciples or students. They decided to take rest in a shady grove. Tansen saw the strangers in the forest. He decided to scare them. Hiding behind a tree, Tansen imitated the roar of a tiger. The disciples scattered in fear. Swami Haridas told them that tigers were not always dangerous and decided to look for the tiger. Soon they realized that there were no tigers. The naughty Tansen was found hiding behind a tree. When he was brought before Haridas, he did not punish Tansen. Instead, Swami Haridas went to Tansen's father. He told Mukandan Mishra that his son, although naughty, was very talented. Swami Haridas offered to make Tansen a singer. From the age of 10, Tansen lived with Swami Haridas. He learned music for 11 years and became a wonderful singer. Sadly, however, Tansen's parents soon died. Mukandan Misra was greatly devoted to Muhammad Ghaus, a holy man who lived in Gwalior. It was Mukandan Misra's dying wish that his son Tansen would visit Muhammad Ghaus. Tansen began living with Muhammad Ghaus. Tansen would often visit the court of Rani Mrignani, a talented musician herself. One of the ladies of Rani Mrignani's court, Hussaini, married Tansen. She too became a disciple of Haridas. Tansen and Hussaini had 5 children, who were all very musically gifted. Tansen's fame grew and he went on to perform in Akbar's court. Akbar invited him to join his court. Tansen joined Akbar's court in 1556. He became a favorite of the emperor. It was said that Akbar would call upon Tansen to hear his music at various times of the day and night. Sometimes, Akbar would often walk into Tansen's home to hear him practice. He even showered him with presents. Some of the courtiers soon became very jealous of Tansen. They decided to ruin Tansen. One of the courtiers, Shaukat Mia, had an idea. He decided to make Tansen sing Raga Deepak. It was said that if Raga Deepak was sung properly, it would make the air so hot that the singer would be burnt to ashes. Since Tansen was an excellent singer, his death would be assured. Shaukat Mia then went to Emperor Akbar. He told Akbar that a few of the courtiers, including himself, thought Tansen was not a great singer.
Well, that was a short clip from one of the notebook videos. We have the privilege of having with us Mr. Achin Bhattacharya. Achin is the founder and CEO of Notebook, and we will hear from him in a minute. Before that, Mr. Gandhi, if you may please unmute yourself. I just needed a small clarification from you.
Yes, am I audible?
Sir, yes, I can hear you. If you can please confirm the rebuttal points for Ruchika on your sheet.
Ruchika, the second from the left, right?
Second from the left, yes, sir. That's correct.
Just a minute.
Sure, sir.
Yeah, can you see it?
Yes, sir, I can see it now. Thank you so much. Well, as I was telling you, ladies and gentlemen, we have Achin here with us. Achin is the founder and CEO of Notebook. He is a chartered accountant by training who has worked across the globe in all the major 4 consulting firms. He was a director at Deloitte prior to starting Notebook. Achin, we would love to hear from you on your thoughts on today's debate and your advice to students regarding public speaking.
Good evening, everyone. Sneha, Gauri, Ruchika, and Mohit. Very well done. Heard some very logical and interesting arguments, which is commendable at your age. Each debate in 0 hour has been thought-provoking. Still, this one deserves a special mention. I'm sure you made each member in the audience to put on their thinking caps by your passionate and articulate deliberations. The importance of public speaking in today's age doesn't need any elaboration. It's a lifelong asset in any career that you choose for yourself. However, when you step out of your school campus and step into a larger world, the society will look forward to your inputs and views on various issues, as debate, discussion, and public discourse are at the heart of any vibrant democracy. So please ensure that you never lose your sense of purpose when you debate on various issues with your fellow citizen. Your endeavor should always be to find out what is right and not necessarily who is right. Also, listening skills, I believe, are very, very important. Being a patient, tolerant listener, listening to the other person with an open mind is very important. In today's age, unlearning is as important as learning. So being baggage free, being receptive, and listening to the other person with an open, flexible mind is key to success. At Notebook, we really aspire to engage with each one of you and work together towards a better tomorrow. With 10,000 videos and more than 1 million users, we are still at our infancy. I also thank all those who have contributed so much to this insightful discussion. Both the learned adjudicators, principals of both the school for their encouragement, and all your teachers and parents who have invested their time, effort, and hope on each one of you. You have indeed made all of them proud. I also thank the audience for your enthusiastic response. We are indeed humbled. When we started 0 Hour with 64 slots, within no time, we had more than 300 entries. I'm really sorry that we couldn't accommodate all the schools in our first round, but we are very happy with the kind of performance that we are seeing from our young debaters. It gives me a lot of confidence about a better tomorrow. Indeed, we thank each one of you. I look forward to see all of you in our next 0 Hour debate today at 8 p.m. Take care, stay safe, and goodbye. Over to you, Shubhayu.
Thank you, Oshin, for those kind words and the words of encouragement. We are also very proud to have partnered with Save the Children. Save the Children, as some of you may already know, is an NGO that is over 100 years old. For over a century, they have worked tirelessly across the globe in ensuring that children who are not as fortunate as us do not die prematurely. They do not grow up in hostile environments. Here is a short message from their CEO, Ms. Pillai, who will tell you about the work that Save the Children does.
Save the Children was born in 1919. 100 years is not a milestone that many organizations or individuals can claim to have reached. And for us, it's been a tireless, relentless journey to ensure that every child has access to their rights. Every child has a voice. But when we look back at 100 years, because 100 is also a time to reflect, we wonder what it would be like to live in a world where children don't need to be saved. Perhaps we could live in a world where Save the Children does not need to exist. And so as we look at the future, we envision a world which is much kinder to its children. A world in which children no longer need to be protected from violence. Where children are not needlessly dying before they turn 5. Where every child is going to school, is learning, is playing, and is on that path towards fulfilling their full potential. As we turn 100, we pledge to work towards that future of a much kinder and brighter world for children. Every day, every hour, every minute, we will continue on that path. But we also know we can't do it alone. We want to work closely with the communities, with our partners, with the government, and most importantly with the children themselves. They are going to be the change makers of tomorrow. Children like Anuyara, like Rahul, like Salman, like Mamta, they are the ones who are breaking gender stereotypes. They are challenging social norms, and they are changing the world and the lives of themselves and also children around them. We pledge to continue working with them, alongside them, to ensure that every child gets the right start. I'm Bidisha Pillai, and I invite you to join Save the Children in our commitment to ensure that every child gets the right start.
Well, I think the participants positively hit me by now for the kind of suspense I built up, but these are your scores after your 5 minutes of arguments and 2 minutes of rebuttals. Sneha, you finished with an average of 76, Mohit with an average of 89, Gauri with an average of 88, and Ruchika, you finished with an average of 85. All four of you very, very well done. Now, these are your school averages. For the Unison World School, the team stands at an average of 80. For SG International School, the school stands at an average of 89, which means the margin right now is 9 points. And this is where you, the audience, gets to vote. You have been asking right through the debate about when and how you can vote, so listen carefully. A poll is going to come up on your screen. You have 4 speakers listed on that poll. Choose the speaker that you feel gave the best arguments, had the best rebuttal, and deserves to be the speaker of the day. You have only 1 vote that you can cast, so think carefully and cast your vote. You will have 1 minute to cast your vote, and the poll should be on your screens now. The participants can switch on the cameras if you would like, because I know you can see the voting happen in real time. We still have 20 odd votes to come in, just halfway through. As I tell the others, any democracy in the world would be jealous of our voting percentages. 40 seconds in, 82% of the votes are in. About 10 seconds to go. Well, we are on that final countdown path. And the voting ends now. At the end of 1 minute, these are the results. Mohit, with 38% of the audience votes, you have become today's Audience Choice Speaker of the Day. Congratulations. What that also means is 25 extra points to the Sanjay Godawat International School, Maharashtra.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome. Is Bharat sir online? I know sir had some connectivity issues.
I'm okay now, Shubhayu.
Great, sir. Would love to hear your remarks on the debate that we just witnessed while I quickly tabulate the final scores.
Thank you very much. Another very close debate. My scores were much closer than some of the other judges, which, personally, I feel there was nothing much that, separated the speakers. Were all very, very good. I wonder how many of you ever imagined that you would, in this time of lockdown, be competing on an international stage. How lucky you are to be competing during this time when most kids don't have much to do. I must commend all the speakers. In fact, I was talking to Achin this morning and I said, the debating standards is amazing. Sneha, you had some very good points, really good points. And you showed us what gender equality would really look like in the workplace and how it would benefit all. And Ruchika, you showed us how, equal rights and opportunities are so important. You showed us how an organization could be unfair to men and how mandatory laws would actually separate and drive a rift between the genders. You used some very good personal examples from your everyday experience. You also separated, Gauri was, you beautifully defined the topic and you showed us how women empowerment is different to gender equality. And you also said equality is equal numbers, but is that the only way we are equal? I mean, we are also equal in how it be promoted, what about the salaries, how we treated. And Mohit, you were very good. I must say, you talked about how change must come from within and cannot be forced. And you took on Sneha's the opening speech very admirably. And you also spoke of how greater equality, gender equality needs to be tackled from an attitude point of view towards women, which is a much slower but much more lasting way of doing things. So well done, all of you. I really had a wonderful time listening to you. Over to you, Shubhayu.
Thank you so much, sir, for those words of encouragement. I'm sure every student will take them to heart. Well, ladies and gentlemen, these are the final tallies. The Sanjay Godawat International School ending with 114 points on the board and the winners of match number 29 in the 0-hour online international inter-school debates. Well, it's been a privilege playing host to all of you. We hope to see you again in our next debate, which is at 8 p.m. today. All four of you, extremely well done. As Sir said, this one for both Sir and me was too close to call. Well, hoping to see you in our next debate. Please take care and goodbye.